Hey, it's great to see everybody back today. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving break. It's hard to believe that finals will be over in just 2 weeks. So, hey, finish strong. Really proud of the work you're doing. Our guest today for chapel is an international leader for the cause of biblical justice. He has worked in full-time ministry in Latino and urban communities since 1982 in several different capacities around the country, including San Francisco and Chicago, where he currently lives. He also has been involved in writing several books, including Where the Cross Meets the Street, What Happens to the Neighborhood When God is at the Center. He has filled a number of influential roles, one of which was his appointment to President Obama's Council for Faith and Neighborhood Partnerships. Currently, he is the CEO of the Christian Community Development Association, a network of Christians committed to seeing people in communities restored holistically. I am thrilled to have him with us today. Please help me welcome to Lee University, Noel Castellanos.
All right, buenos días a todos. I know some of you have a limited Spanish vocabulary. Yo quiero Taco Bell. You know, I guess that'll do sometimes, right? Well, it's really good to be here with you. It's a real pleasure. I think I first learned about Lee University on The Voice, watching The Voice, you know, so you all are famous. So, well, what I want to talk to you about today may be a little bit hard to really tune into because you're in the middle of crises. And that crisis, you got finals coming up very soon, right? So I know your worlds are very much caught up into that, and I'm glad you had that Thanksgiving break. This Thanksgiving was very different for me, different than any other I've ever had in my life, because it was my first Thanksgiving as a vegan, okay? Oh, man. You don't know how hard it is to say that when you're a Mexican. Because, man, we eat every part of the pig, man. We eat everything. And so to kind of be vegan is a whole different deal. But hopefully this is going to be a big deal. Now, it's also the first time I've preached from my iPhone 10. So, we'll see how that works, okay? So this morning, I want to talk to you about dreamers. I believe that what we need more today than at any other time in my lifetime is that we need a world full of dreamers. Our neighborhoods need dreams. Our churches need dreams. Our schools need dreams. Our institutions need dreams. Our government needs dreams. Our nation needs dreams. I believe that we're in desperate need of people being gripped by a dream that goes beyond themselves. And I think that's exactly where the Christian faith is so vital for you and I. We share that common faith, that common reality that for us, our dream is not limited by our earthly reality. That we have a kingdom dream. We have a kingdom dream, a dream that is so incredible and it's so otherworldly, supernatural. A dream that cannot be realized and could not be realized by human effort or ingenuity. It's a dream that God himself dreamed up at the beginning of creation. And it was a dream that said, every single individual that I create on this planet for all time, they're going to be created in my image. Now, we know and we understand that that dream is not being fully lived out in our world today. 7 billion people on our planet, and it is incredibly painful to think about the kind of atrocity and suffering that's going on in our world today. And I think it's really hard for us to even comprehend that. Hard for us to comprehend that. Especially when we're in a bubble, right? And I'm not talking about Lee University. I'm talking about our nation, us in the West. Many of us know that life is not easy. I know that many of you struggle. You come from situations that are hard and difficult. And so I know that we don't often feel like we're living in a bubble, protected, that we all are experiencing challenges. But what I realize is that compared to the challenges that I see all over the world, I mean, we're incredibly blessed. But at the same time, I had a chance to drive around the neighborhoods around Lee University. And I got to tell you, there's a tremendous amount of need right here. In a little town in the middle of Tennessee, beautiful hills and mountains and, all the great stuff that's here, but there are people right around you that are living the kind of lives that you could never imagine living, right? So you don't have to go far. You don't have to cross an ocean. You don't have to cross a river. You don't have to cross continents to actually come to the face-to-face with incredible need. But I think for most of us, one of the challenges as Christians is that we've bought into a different dream. We've believed the lie that the dream of our society is more important than the dream of the kingdom of God. Okay? And we live it out in all kinds of ways. I am absolutely struck by the fact that Jesus, in his ability to both transcend our world and then fully be incarnated in our world as a Galilean Jew that walked on this earth 2,000 years ago. Think about the words that he said when he told his disciples and anybody who was interested, who was seeking him. He says, the love of money, the love of mammon is the root of all evil. That is a powerful statement. And I know that you may, say, well, Jesus said a lot of things, but when I begin to examine the realities of injustice and suffering in our country and in our world, one of the things that I've concluded is that most of those injustices have to do with greed and the love of money. And what we've done is we've substituted God's kingdom that's about sacrifice, that's about love, that's about giving to one another. And instead we've taken on a kingdom that's more about power. It's more about stuff. It's more about what we have. And you've said that, how much is enough? Just a little bit more, right? Just a little bit more. Now, look, you're investing a lot of money, your parents, somebody, Lee University, to give you a great education so that you're prepared to go into the world. And I love the fact that you're a liberal arts Christian college where, yes, you have a religion department and professors are coming at every subject from that Christian worldview and perspective. But the reality is some of you are preparing for nursing careers. Some of you are preparing to be communications directors and maybe making Hollywood movies or which I'm going to go see Coco. I'm taking a group of about 40 or 50 dreamers in Washington, D.C. in a couple weeks to go see Coco together. And it's going to be awesome. I've been waiting to see, my abuelita on the big screen, right? And it's finally here, okay? But the reality is that I think we're in danger. Even though we have this incredible blessing of living in a world with so much ease. I mean, I can't even imagine what this little thing does. I asked Siri to make me coffee this morning. That didn't work, But it should for the kind of money you pay for one of these guys, right? So sometimes I long for the days of that flip phone, that... No, you guys don't know what that is. All right. Well, so this morning I want to talk to you about the fact that we all need dreams. I hope you have a dream. I hope that you are beginning to discover what your dream is, what you were created to do and be on this planet. How has God wired you uniquely? How are you being prepared with your unique experience, family background? When I was growing up as a Mexican-American kid, I was born in Texas, 3 miles from the Mexican border, on this side of the Mexican border. Just so, in case there's any ICE agent volunteers or spies or drones in here, right? I was born on this side, okay? But the reality is, for many years, I never thought about that. I just took that for granted until God, in His divine purpose and way of working, He puts me, He kind of really begins to give me a burden to work in the Latino community and in poor neighborhoods in the barrio. And I began to realize that unlike myself, many of my neighbors were not as fortunate. They were here, many had been living in this country and have been living in this country for many, many years, and yet they were, and I learned this, they were actually from another planet. They're aliens. They're so weird, so different, so unlike us humans on this planet and Earth and U.S., right? Can you imagine a little kid, you're 6, 7 years old, and they hear their parents say, those aliens that are here taking all our jobs, there's aliens? It could be very confusing. All right, so be careful. Be careful when you start using that rhetoric. But today, I want to talk to you about, as much as you need dreams, and I was telling Dr. Lamb that one of the things that I think is important for you to hear from people that are engaged in work of every kind, and like many of you are preparing to try to live out your own vision and dream for your life, is that to fulfill a God-given vision and burden means that you can't do everything. Can't. Okay? Bo Jackson tried, football, baseball, few people can do it. But really, we're not called to save the world. Jesus came to save the world. We're called to follow God and be okay in the reality, our humility that we can make a difference in a little piece of this planet. And if I'm faithful to God and utilize the gifts and talents and time and energy that He's given us to do one thing well, oh man, you can make a difference. And you know what? Right now, it's okay if you're doing a lot of things because you're learning, right? This is the time for you to discover what that is. But the older I get, the more I realize that I only can do maybe one or two, but really it's just, I got like 2 messages that I give all over the country and world, and you're hearing one of them, right? I only got 2, so it's easy. I don't have to really think too much or memorize too much because I don't have to talk about everything. And I am pretty clear about what God has given me to talk about. And so this morning, I want to talk about, there's a photograph, the Camino de Sueños slide. So I have been we were in the middle of a campaign that we started as an organization that is committed to help Christians work in vulnerable neighborhoods, okay? Whether it's white poor, black poor, Asian poor, Native Americans, Latinos, and because my call was to work in these Mexican barrios, what I began to realize is that our current immigration system is broken. It's outdated. It doesn't work. And beyond all of the talk and all of the rhetoric and the anger and the confusion, I think most people agree that our system is just not working. Do you know that at the beginning of the 19th century, that 5,000 unskilled immigrants were coming into our country every single day through Ellis Island, through the port in New Orleans, and that was happening for a number of years, 5,000 a day, okay? Do you know that today that the U.S. government allocates 5,000 visas for unskilled workers a year, okay? And yet, the reality is most of us know that there are full industries in our nation that are pretty much dominated by undocumented workers. And so the reality is if you ate a salad last night, you ate a strawberry with your breakfast this morning, that 70%, up to 70% of all the ag workers in this country that put food on our tables cheaply are folks that are here without documentation. Because somehow our government hasn't figured out that it might be a good idea to allocate the actual number of visas for agriculture workers that we need. It's not that complicated, but what happens when you begin to see greed and politics and power dominate the conversation and not doing what's right for the people, okay? Treating folks like they're created in God's image no matter who they are, then things get wacky. So, how many of you have heard the term dreamer beyond this morning? How many of you have heard that term? Okay? Most of you, a lot of you. Well, I want to just talk to you about that as we close. Let's go to the next slide. No, keep going. That's it, right there. Okay. Here's a group of students that are holding this sign called DACA, Defend DACA. And a dreamer is a young person that was brought into the country by their parents who came without proper documentation. Now, one of the real fallacies or myths that a lot of people have is that, everybody tried to walk across the desert or swim across a river. But the reality is many people just get on a plane and fly here with a tourist visa, and then they stay longer. And that happens with Canadians, and it happens with all kinds of other folks, not just Mexicans, right? And but what happened is these parents that were coming here to seek a better life for their families, and because there was work that was drawing them here, they, like I heard a story yesterday, a young lady who came here when she was 8 months old. 8 months old. Now she's in her 20s, or close to it. And so can you imagine if that's your situation and you've grown up basically in this culture, this community, and this state, and everything about you, everything you know is life here. And yet one day, your parents, as you get a little older, they begin to get concerned for you, and they say, Mija, mijo, we got to have a conversation with you. And they explain to you, look, you, like us, are here illegally, okay? You're not illegal. You're not, people aren't illegal, but you're here illegally, right? And so they kind of know the reality of having to live every day in the shadows of our nation's system, face recognition. And so they go to school every day, and they're not sure that when they come home if their parents will be there. They go to work every day, and many of them are not sure at the end of a hard day, a week's work, maybe 50, 60 hours, they're not sure they're going to get paid all that they earned, because employers can actually not pay them, and they have no legal recourse. I heard another story here, but I hear these all over the country. I'm just telling you a couple conversations I've had here in the last 2 days. I heard a story about a dreamer who's older, okay? She came when she was about 12 or 13. And she said, my grandparents back home are getting old, and we left 12 years ago. We came to the U.S. 12 years ago. I've not seen my family. I've not gone back, because if I leave, we can't come back. And she said, with tears in her eyes, you know what? I just want to see my grandparents one more time before they die. I can't do that. And I've heard so many stories like that. And so in 2012, a number of religious leaders from every denomination were coming together to say, in the middle of this very complicated immigration conversation, there is a group of young people that we ought to get behind, the dreamers. Because, they're Americans in every way possible. We ought to just find a way to help them get legalized. And so we tried to do it through Congress, and it just exploded. It didn't work. And again, I would say it had more to do with politics than anything else. Both the Democrats and the Republicans, I mean, you can't put blame on just one or the other, okay? And so I remember I was called in to go with 5 or 6 other religious leaders to meet with President Obama, and I went into the Oval Office, and we talked about the dreamers, and we talked about the disappointment of not having the DREAM Act, which was introduced 14 years ago. This is a long time that we've been working on this. Long time, okay? And at the end of during our meeting, President Obama told us, listen, I want to do something. I just know that there's we've got to figure out a way to protect these young men and women. And at the end of that time, and this first, I've met with the president a number of times, but this is the only time he ever did this. He put his hand on my knee, and he said, "Noel, would you pray? Would you pray for us?" And so I had a chance to pray, and it was a prayer for dreamers, for the Congress to act, to do the right thing. And I believe that as much as being back in my neighborhood, talking to my neighbors about Jesus, or working on changing programs and policy in our community so that the poor can have a more just life, that moment I think I was exercising spiritual leadership, right? Just being able to pray and to say, "Lord, would you intervene?" Well, a few days later, I go home, and again, everyone's really disappointed. And I get a phone call from one of my friends who works in the White House, and he says, it was 7 o'clock in the morning. So I said, "Man, this better be important, And he tells me, "Put on the news, watch the news this morning, because I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised." And that morning, it was announced that President Obama had done this action called the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA. And basically what that did is it gave legal protection, not congressional protection. It wasn't a law, but it was an executive order that said temporarily dreamers will not be deportable if they apply. They will be able to study and not worry about being rejected as they apply to go to college. They can work, and they can serve in the military, which many, many dreamers do. There's about 1 million dreamers in our country, and about 800,000 took advantage, and they registered with the U.S. government, which, put yourself in their shoes. It was a very risky thing, because now they have all your information. They know where to get you, okay? And knowing that it was a temporary deal, the hope was, instead of having to depend on an executive order, we'll surely pass a new law soon. Well, President Trump was recently elected, and as you know, look, I respect every politician and president but when he started talking about Mexicans the way he did, I got a little bit of that barrio started coming out of me. What are you talking about, man? If I see you on the street, I'm going to, I think I could take him, by the way. I do. I don't. Okay. Hey, this is an experiment. I don't think I'm going to do this anymore, But one of the things that the president did, really fulfilling one of his promises, is he says, "You know what? I'm going to end the DACA program. We have 6 months. So in March, that limited protection is going to be over. That program's over." So what it means is that 800,000 young people, plus their friends, their families, their church members, all these folks are going to be in this extremely vulnerable situation. Do you know that our country has consistently done that? And it wasn't just people of color. We've kind of tried to move people at will. This is right at the heart of the beginning of the Trail of Tears, right? Which is part of a history in the South that our country needs to deal with. And when I started getting all huffy and proud that I don't live in the South, my wife is from Huntsville, Alabama. Yep. Roll Tide. All right. I know. I don't care. I don't care if they win. I root for Northwestern University, all right? They're never going to win anything, okay? But the reality is that, what happened is Trump said, this is over. It's going to be over, right? And so let's go to a couple of others. Let's go to the, next slide. Next slide. And if we don't do something, we're going to have to, Congress is going to have to do something. I would feel okay about that if I had any hope that Congress could do anything. 14 years. Now we've got less than 3 months for Congress to act on this issue, okay? Now the question is, why should you care? Why should you care? Hey, that's not my problem. I got to pass my test next week. Hey, that's not my problem. I'm a U.S. citizen. That's exactly what I used to say. I was born here. I don't need to deal with this. In fact, they're probably just going to, those illegals are probably just going to take my opportunities away. And tragically, I've heard comments like that in churches, in Christian colleges, in neighborhoods, and I think we don't understand the kingdom dream. We don't understand the kingdom dream. We're more American than we are Christian. Hey, it's good to be American. It's good to be American. But before I'm an American, I'm a Christian. Now, look, many of you here, especially the good Christians in the room, you know who I'm talking about. You all have been taught that the most important proof that you're a good Christian is that you're helping people all over to get their immigration status in order in heaven so that they can get in legally. All right? All you got to do is say this prayer and you can get in legally to heaven at a high price, a cost. But we don't give a rip about people's immigration status here on earth. Okay? And God said, there are 2 things I want you to do. I want you to love me with everything, and I want you to love my neighbor, your neighbor. That's the proof. Don't make it so complicated. And who's your neighbor? Well, it's that man, that woman beaten up by the side of the road. It's the person that is not like you. It's the person who speaks a different language, who has a different belief system. And consistently, the worship leaders, the pastors, the priests, now this one's going to get me in trouble, the theology professors, when they see that person beat up on the other side of the road, they can tell you all about the theology about what the dilemma is, but we often walk to the other side of the road and just keep on going and don't do anything. So friends, I want to tell you that, here's a like I was an art major in college. Any art majors here? One? Is that? All right, yeah. Hey, listen, it's okay. You can admit you're an art major, all right? So, and I hadn't painted for 30 years, but when we started doing this project, we said, with this campaign, we're going to unleash the power of story. So that's why I've been telling you stories about dreamers. But also we're going to unleash the power of art, because art is the language of imagination. Whether it's singing or dancing or drawing or painting or poetry, because art is not bound by current reality. Okay? you can express dreams and visions in a way that sometimes words will never do. So one of the, we're painting these baskets, and actually tonight there's an event, and you're going to see a slide later for dreamers. Okay, so some of you that maybe you've never even thought about this, you'll have a chance at 5 o'clock today if you want to come for just a little bit. And some of your students, fellow classmates, have created some artwork where they're expressing their reaction to the suffering and pain of dreamers and their families. So here's a self-portrait, and see the tears? And those tears are the tears of the millions of people in this country, 12 million or more, that are just praying that they would have an opportunity to be fully integrated into the fabric of this nation. Let's go to the next slide. And then the cactus is an important figure in the Mexican landscape, and the cactus is indigenous to South America, Latin America, Mexico, and it's one of the most resilient plants in the world. And almost everywhere I've gone in the world, whether it's Africa or Italy, I didn't see any in China, but I'm going to go plant one in China. But here's the deal. The cactus doesn't need much water. You know, you just put it in the ground, and given the chance, it will grow and it will flourish. And that's the story of dreamers, you know. If you know a dreamer personally, you know that that's the reality. Let's go to the last slide here. And then at the bottom there, that's a butterfly, a mariposa. And finally, what I want to just say is that as Christians and as brothers and sisters that are part of the same family, familia, then you got some diverse family members, whether you like it or not. Okay, like when I had Thanksgiving, I had all my gun-toting, hunting, deer hunting, family members. And then when my wife goes to my family, we're eating, it's all the Mexican, family members. But we're familia, right? And I want to tell you that your prayers, your dreams for dreamers, your speaking up, your lifting your voice, your treatment of, it can give wings to these young men and women. It could be the difference, and it can give wings to our legislators so that they can do the right thing, okay? Listen, we were born to soar, not in a way of triumphalism or prosperity, the way the world sees it, but we're called to live above the hate, to fly above the partisan. What do you call it when you're nonpartisan or partisanism? Yeah, we're called to fly above all that. We're called to live above the boundaries that our society says we need to maintain. We're called to fly beyond selfish dreams so that we can dream kingdom dreams for the glory of God. So I want to tell you that it doesn't matter if you're 18, any 16-year-olds in here? A couple of you. Most of you are voting age, right? You need to register. You need to use your voice. Don't take that for granted, okay? I think I'm done here. All right, let me see. I got 1 minute. 1 minute. Let me tell you one last story. No. I don't have a minute. Should I tell the story or not? Okay, all right. If you want, come and I'll write you a permission slip to be late to class, all right? Yeah. I was in Arizona, which is, for many, would call the ground zero of the immigration debate and struggle. And I went to go visit a church of one of our partner ministries that I knew were very involved in helping to, address the dreamer issue. And they said, hey, why don't you come to our youth group meeting while you're in town? I said, absolutely. And so how many of you have been to a youth group meeting at church? Okay, what do you do there? You eat, you open the Bible, maybe you play a little basketball, ping pong, soccer, whatever, you hang out with your friends and all. So I'm thinking, that's what I'm going to see. That's the way it is everywhere you go. And I walk into this room, and the room is filled with tables and computers, and the youth of the youth group are sitting around the table at a computer with earpieces in their heads and ears, and they're making phone calls to register people to vote. And they're saying, and when you vote, I want to tell you about a couple of laws related to immigration that are really important for you to know about. And they're in there, and I was just blown away. I'm saying, this is youth group? What do you do? This is what youth group does? A bunch of nerds. But then I asked one of the kids, why are you doing this? He says, because my faith demands it. Amen. Because my faith demands it. Friends, what does your faith demand? What does your faith demand? God bless you.
Come on, give it up for Noel Castellanos one more time. Amen. Amen. Would you stand with me? Let me make you aware of a couple of things very quickly. Coming up on Thursday, Senior Stories. We've got some folks leaving us, and they're going to tell their Lee story. Then next Tuesday in chapel, Christmas music. And candy canes that you can eat and take with you. Lots of those. All right? Now, a couple things today. 5 o'clock. You heard it, but let's look at the screen. Camino de Sueños today at 5. Puedo hablar la lengua del cielo, sí. Sí. Camino de Sueños is tonight in the SMC Lecture Hall. That's a science and math complex. Okay? 5 o'clock. Then after you finish with that activity, go ahead and go on over to the PCSU, and we'll have a viewing party of The Voice tonight. Free pizza, food, snacks, all kinds of great stuff. All right? Let's pray. Join me for prayer. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my strength and my Redeemer. God bless you.